Thank you very much for purchasing our Honda A.C.E 750 bobber kits. If you'll notice, this bike, it has the kind of a modified muffler already, so yours won't quite look like that. And then make sure yours is the right model. Make sure that it is the A.C.E with the chain drive. That's really important because there's so many Hondas. And then also, grab yourself, before you get started, grab yourself a little roll-around chair like mine here. Mine's kind of beat up, but it just makes the whole project so much nicer if you can just kind of sit down and roll around the bike when you do this. So get one of those, and then I'm going to show you how to tie the kickstand for safety next. Okay, you're going to be moving this bike back and forth with wrenches and stuff, so make sure you tie your kickstand like this. You don't want that kickstand to fold on you. The bike could fall over, so that's a real important safety feature. Just tie that kickstand up before we get started, just like that. Okay, next we're going to remove this big old ugly seat. So to remove the passenger seat, just undo this screw. Then it should lift right off there. Then to take the main seat off, just undo that screw, and that one should pull right off. There you have it. Okay, before we take the fender off, we're going to have to disconnect the wires coming out of that fender. So if you'll pop that side cover off, your right side cover, you'll notice the wire coming down through here, and it goes into this big rubber boot. Go ahead and pull all 5 of those wires out there. One thing I do to help, that may help too, is I go in there with some needle nose pliers and actually grab the metal part of the connector, and before I pull it out, that way you don't break the connector off inside the little boot there. So go ahead and pull all 5 of those wires out, and then we'll continue on here. Now all you have to do is remove these 3 screws on both sides, and then these 2 here, and the fender should fall right out. I leave these till last, that way your fender won't crash down. So go ahead and do that, and remove that fender, and we'll keep on going. Okay, it's really easy to remove the front fender. Just remove these 2 screws, one on each side here, on both sides of the forks there, and then the fender will pull right out. So if you're going to replace that, go ahead and pull that front fender out, and we'll continue on here. Okay, to remove this big chrome brace from the motorcycle, we're going to have to raise the bike up just a little bit, just get the pressure off from the shock. You don't have to lift the tire off the floor, just get the pressure up on the bike so we can get that shock off there. The way I do it is I just lift the frame up, not the swing arm, just the frame, and just lift it up just a little bit with the floor jack, just enough to get the to stretch that shock out so you can pull it off. And then you go ahead and just undo these 2 screws, this one and this one, and then you should be able to just pull that shock off. There you have it. Okay, make sure you leave your floor jack under the bike while you do this, and let's go ahead and just remove this big bolt. Take this chrome piece off. And then whatever you do, let's go ahead and put this shock back on before you take your jack out. Otherwise the bike could tip toward you and fall over. So that's really, really important. So go ahead and leave the jack under it, and we'll continue on. Okay, run that bolt back in the frame there, and leave it a little bit loose. We're going to eventually put this part in there. This is an unpainted part, but that's going to slide in there eventually. So leave about an 1/8 of an inch gap there. And then just go ahead and slide your shock back on. And if you'll notice at the bottom of your shock, there's an arrow there. Make sure the arrow is pointing this way. And then go ahead and just put your bolts in temporarily. We'll go ahead and do the other side. Okay, to get the chrome bracket off the left side, you just undo this bolt right here. Now be careful, it's aluminum, so it's kind of soft, so be careful and make sure you get a good grip on that before you try to loosen it. And all you do is just loosen that up a little bit, and then that big chrome shock big chrome bracket should just pull right out of there. There you have it. You don't need to take the shock off that side. Okay, if you plan on removing your tank, this is what you do on it. It's real simple on this bike. Just remove these 4 screws from the speedometer housing here. It's these 2 right here, then one on each side here. So take those screws out, be sure and don't lose them, and then this will just lift off the bike, and then we'll show you how to unplug that connector on the bottom there. So hold on 1 second. Okay, to remove the speedometer housing, it's real simple. You just lift it up, and then underneath the housing there's this big connector. This is like a big rubber boot here, and it has the connector under the boot. So just go ahead and pry that boot back, and you'll see that little prong right there. So just push on that prong, and that'll unplug itself from the other part of the connector. So just go ahead and unplug that, and then you can remove the housing, and then we'll go ahead and remove the tank. Oh, one thing before you continue on, go ahead and put either pop these little grommets out or just be really careful when you handle this, because these little grommets can pop out of there, and then you don't want to lose those things. So anyway, just a word on that. You got 4 of them. Okay, if you decide you want to drain your gas tank, which makes it a lot easier to handle if it's not full of gas, be really careful on this, because you know gasoline is extremely flammable. So anyway, what you do is you just pop the side cover off here on this left side, and then you'll see the fuel line coming out of the tank here. I've slipped this back a little bit just to show you, and it has this big clamp. You just squeeze that and pull it back. And then anyway, you can kind of pry that back with a screwdriver when you're ready to take that off. Now, the one thing you want to make sure is that the fuel petcock is in the off position when you pull that back. So go ahead and take your glass line off in the off position. And then what I do is I hook a rubber line from this going down to a gas can. And then I drain it in the reserve position. That way all the fuel will get out of the tank. If you go in the on position, you'll still have some left. So go ahead and drain that into a good fuel can. And then it'll make it a little easier to pop your tank off, and then make sure you put that in the off position before you remove your tank. We're just about ready to remove the tank. It's real easy. The last 2 things you do are the disconnect your vent line right here. It just plugs in under the tank right there. And then the last thing you want to do is take the bolt out, the gas tank right here. Go ahead and lift that up. Then grab that little bushing. It'll probably fall out of the rear of the gas tank there. So go ahead and grab that bushing, and then just go ahead and lift your tank off. You have to slide it a little bit, and off it comes. Okay, I'm going to send all my components out for paint, tank fenders, side covers. Check our website, because we may be making side covers for this bike. I don't like the way these side covers on this stock bike stick out. They look like big sheets sticking out, so we may go ahead and make side covers for it. And then one thing I've done is I've put the rubber grommet and the steel bushing and the bolt back in the bike there. That way you won't lose that stuff. A quick note too, if you check on any of the OEM parts places on the internet, what I do is I just Google Honda OEM parts. That way you can go ahead and look at all the schematics on their website, and you can see the whole bike all torn apart in pieces. And if you do need to order a part, you can go ahead and order it while you're on their website. I use Bike Bandit. They seem to be really good, and they get stuff right out. So, and it's nice to see the schematics and all this, especially when you go to put the bike back together. You make sure everything's going back the way it's supposed to. So anyway, check that out, and then let's go ahead and continue on this bad boy, and we'll start putting everything back together.